Which diet should I follow is a question that nowadays seems almost impossible to answer, especially in social media. We're bombarded with all kinds of extreme advice, like only eat this, don't ever eat that, or yeah, right. But in the midst of this jungle of diets, there's one form of eating that somehow really stands out and has gotten a lot of media coverage recently.
Intermittent fasting.
There are many claims ranging from increased longevity, losing weight without counting calories, and improved sleep and concentration. And I just want something that fits me and supports my lifestyle. So here's everything about intermittent fasting. What it is, what are the pros, what are the cons, and why not try it myself? So I'll tell you my experience with it as well. Enjoy! So what is intermittent fasting and how is it different from other diets? Well, initially the term diet doesn't really fit here. When doing intermittent fasting, you're not restricting yourself to only eat veggie, only eat meat, only eat low-carb products. No, the only restriction is that all of your food consumption has to happen during a specific window in the day. And this is also why it's called time-restricted eating, TRE. And in theory, you could eat whatever you want as long as it happens during this period of time. But we get to that later. So how does it work in detail? In general, you alternate every day between a fixed eating window and a fixed fasting window. This can mean either eating for 12 hours and then fasting for 12 hours, 12-12, eating for 10 hours and fasting for 14, 10-14, or what is also very popular, eating for 8 hours and fasting for 16 hours. But don't worry too much about the specific regimen. Everything with at least 12 hours of fasting should actually work, and it really depends on what works for you and your lifestyle and what you can sustainably maintain. And what is so essential here is that you give your body a clear pause. A defined window every day where you let your stomach and gut do their things, let them pause, relax so to speak, prepare for the next day, and most importantly that your digestive system isn't constantly occupied with processing food. Because the reality is that we live in a 24-hour society and eating is something that happens all throughout the day. Many people eat at irregular times, skipping breakfast, skipping lunch, eating dinner very late and raiding your refrigerator at 3 a.m. because you're hungry. And this really got my attention because, hello, this is me. But Dr. Satchin Panda, who is one of the leading scientists in the field of intermittent fasting and how it relates to chronobiology, says that this way of 24-hour eating leads to obesity, reduced sleep quality, high cholesterol, and more. And if you think about it, intermittent fasting is something like the OG form of eating. For most of human existence, we had no refrigerators and food was scarce. Maybe not, but maybe you were lucky. Then you could hunt and collect berries and so on during the day. But when it got dark, food was again scarce, you couldn't store anything, so you had to wait till the next day, or probably the day after next. Okay, we now know what intermittent fasting is, but now let's get started with the benefits. Okay, the first point is probably what calls the most attention for intermittent fasting. Time-restricted eating makes you lose weight in a healthy way. And this has many reasons. First, the shorter eating window will automatically reduce your appetite because you're more likely to be still full from your last meal. Simply think about it. Less opportunity to eat means eating less. You could argue that if your eating window is smaller, you would have more hunger and would nevertheless therefore eat the same calories. But studies show that people who do intermittent fasting consistently eat less calories than those who have no time restriction whatsoever, even when the participants actively try to eat more, because you can only overeat so much and you will be full for a long time. Additionally, you will get used to stop eating at a certain time in the evening without probably feeling any hunger after a while, which will reduce your junk food intake a lot, because let's be honest, most people don't drink and eat their wine and beer and chips and chocolate early in the morning, but in the evening, in front of the TV. Not being allowed to eat at this time will therefore reduce your junk food calories in the evening a lot. Lastly, and this was a surprise to me, eating the same amount of calories during a time-restricted window compared to those participants who ate whenever they wanted led on its own to weight loss due to changes in your metabolism and the way your body functions when you fast for a couple of hours before you sleep. Number 2, intermittent fasting also very much improves your quality of sleep, and this happens in 2 ways. Your eating schedule heavily influences your circadian rhythm, and eating less in the evening helps your body to regenerate at night. So for those of you who don't know, your circadian rhythm is what your body's own inner clock is called. When you wake up, are hungry, energized, tired, have to go to the bathroom and fall asleep, all these things and more are determined by your inner clock called the circadian rhythm. And I've even made a video about how to improve your sleep in particular and how it relates to circadian rhythm. And you can click here or down in the description below where I explain in more detail. The problem with your circadian rhythm is that it usually gets out of hand quite quickly when you don't engage in any activities that rewind your clock, such as viewing bright light or eating. A disturbed circadian rhythm, like for example irregular eating times, can cause serious health problems in the short term, but also very much in the long term. And here in particular, it can mess up your sleeping schedule, so whether if you're tired and can fall asleep or not. But when you do intermittent fasting, you will most likely start eating as soon as your eating window starts. You will most likely develop a more or less fixed eating rhythm, which highly contributes to a healthy and well-established circadian rhythm, which will put your sleep schedule in order again. Additionally, eating right before bed significantly lowers your quality of sleep. Your body isn't just sleeping at night, but 100% occupied with regenerating your body while you sleep. And when you then eat something right before sleep, your body will now prioritize processing and digesting the food first. And only after that, possibly hours later, your body starts with the regeneration that is actually crucially needed. Thus, eating late will make your sleep less rejuvenating. But when you now follow a time-restricted eating regimen, you will most likely stop eating a couple of hours before bed, allowing your body to process all the food before you actually go to bed, which leads to you having a higher quality of sleep. And number 3, and this is a really crazy point, intermittent fasting might make you live longer. This happens in 2 ways. First, for many years now, studies have indicated that eating less might make you live longer. Eating less can mean either eating less frequent or eating less calories in total. A while ago, the so-called blue zones in the world made the headlines, where statistically more centenarians, thus people over the age of 100, live. In these areas, people swear by eating less and stopping to eat when they feel about 80% full. And although the concept of these blue zones is questionable, because later was found out that people deliberately manipulated data in such blue zones, the concept of eating less to improve longevity still caught the interest of scientists. In one study published in the journal Science, mice were separated into different groups. And what they found out was that mice who followed a time-restricted eating regimen paired with a caloric restriction lived 10 to 35% longer than those mice who only had a caloric restriction. And similar to that, intermittent fasting and fasting in general makes your body recycle toxins and waste products in your cells. Thus, your body cleans and repairs your cells when fasting. This recently discovered process, called autophagy, literally means in Greek to eat yourself. What happens after 12 to 14 hours of fasting is that your body starts to eat away and recycle toxic junk that accumulates in your cells over the day. In this way, your cells and especially your mitochondria function better. Your cells live longer, damage to your cells is reduced, and your body prevents many diseases in the short and also in the long term, which is believed to be a major factor when it comes to longevity. But in 2016, the biologist Yoshinori Ohsumi won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of autophagy. Okay, number 4. I personally found that when I was fast in the morning, and was also used to be fast in the morning, my focus was insane when studying or doing work. Black coffee, which doesn't have any calories and doesn't break the fast, even helped me to improve my focus even more. And fasting helped me just so much to pass through some exams recently. Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist from Stanford, explained in his podcast about focus that the brain operates very efficiently when either being fasted or completely fed. I could maximize my productivity and focus when I worked for the first couple of hours fasted, then had a meal and continued working fully fed for a couple of hours without having any crash or so, which I would normally have somewhere midday to afternoon. And there are many more potential benefits of intermittent fasting, such as reduced inflammation, reduced cardiovascular problems and so on, but this would make the video way longer, so I'll try to focus on these points. Okay, now let's talk about the downsides. And first, my personal observations. Intermittent fasting is sometimes a bit unsocial. So I tend towards having an 8-hour eating window as a goal, and this mostly either means don't eat breakfast, but then you can eat dinner, or eat breakfast, but no dinner. And if you want to eat with other people, then you often miss out, which is not that bad, but it's sometimes just a little bit annoying. Also, I have to admit that my quality of food was not that great in the first couple of weeks that I tried intermittent fasting. I wasn't really used to having a time limit, so when I approached my last meal, I began stuffing more and more food into me because sometimes I didn't eat enough over the day and I didn't want to go to bed too hungry. This took a while and I had to develop a better eating routine in order to fix this problem. And generally, it is just a bit annoying when you had no time to properly eat during the day maybe, and now you see that your eating window soon will be over, which caused almost like a bit of food anxiety for me, which is simply not so nice. Okay, and now a bit more general things. Okay, now I want to get clear about something that I mentioned earlier. Yes, many of these benefits are derived when you eat no matter what and stick to a time-restricted regimen. But, and here's the big but, why would you want to sabotage yourself? Yes, if you only ate junk food all day previously and now watch this video and start to eat only during an 8-hour window and fast for 16, but still proceed to only eat junk food, then you might be better off. But is this healthy? No, I really think it isn't. I feel like there are people who misconceive how intermittent fasting really works and see it as an excuse for having a bad diet. From my understanding, following a regimen where you somehow limit your food intake window and fast for a while sounds plausible, and that's what I do myself. But eating healthy is still non-negotiable to me, because otherwise you miss loads of nutrients and eat too much of the stuff that is bad for you, and you will miss a lot of health potential. Also, intermittent fasting is no one-size-fits-all solution, neither is it the holy grail of eating. There are many potential positive outcomes. But if you watch this video, then you're probably also interested in science and health in general. So you should be skeptical of all these claims nevertheless. Although there is really good research up to now, many things are not as clear yet. There maybe are not sufficient high quality studies concerning some topics. Then there's a lack of long-term studies, and also many studies are done by using mice, which often are, but often are also not applicable to humans. So always keep an open eye, don't settle for one solution, educate yourself, maybe try it for yourself and stay critical. Talking about trying it yourself. After having read and learned about intermittent fasting, I've recommended it to loads of friends and family members. But some of them I told, look, if you take medications, have medical issues, or feel like this might be too much for you, don't do it unless you talk with your doctor about it. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew, risk your health, and if you feel unwell, this is a clear sign that you should get things checked. This is also what every expert, including Dr. Sachin Panda, recommends. So, should you try intermittent fasting? I think, why not? There are many potential upsides, which I think are worth the effort. But hey, I'm just a monkey with a microphone that likes to read and tells you about it on the internet. Anyways, if you want to try it and are not sure whether it's okay for you, please talk to your doctor before you try it. Besides that, subscribe for more content like that. If you have any video ideas for future videos, please drop them down below in the comments. And besides that, thank you so much for watching and see you next week. Bye bye.